Have you ever wondered why life feels so out of order? Why you're running in every direction, yet feel like you're going nowhere? Why no matter how hard you try at relationships, work, goals, something always feels off? What if the problem isn't what you're doing, but who you're putting first? Because here's the truth most people don't want to hear. If God isn't first in your life, then nothing else will fall into place. Not peace, not purpose, not even love. But when He is first, suddenly everything begins to align. Not instantly, not without struggle, but with a clarity, a rhythm, a divine order that changes everything. This isn't about being religious. It's about realigning your soul with your Creator. And the secret, it starts not with your schedule, not with your money, not with your social media habits. It starts with your heart. Because whatever owns your heart owns your life. We say God is first with our mouths, but what does our time say? What does our phone history say? What do our thoughts say when we lie in bed at night? Putting God first is not a slogan, it's a surrender. And in that surrender is the freedom you've been chasing. Sometimes God lets our lives fall apart, not to punish us, but to show us what happens when He's not in the center. It's not cruelty, it's mercy. Because when your plans fail, your relationships crack, your confidence breaks, that's when you start to see what's real. That's when you hear the whisper, "Come back to me. I'm what you've been missing all along." So how do you do it? How do you really put God first? Not just on Sunday, but on Tuesday night, when you're overwhelmed, or Friday morning when you're doubting, or in that quiet moment when no one else sees. It starts with one word: intention. You can't drift into a God-first life. You choose it. You fight for it. You shape your day around it. Not because God demands it, but because your soul needs it. Just like you eat to survive, your spirit needs daily time with the one who created it. Start small. Before you check your phone, check in with Him. Before you scroll, sit still. Open the Word. Speak a prayer, even if it's messy, even if you don't feel anything yet. Especially when you don't feel anything. Because feelings don't lead your faith. Faith leads your feelings. Think about the last time you felt peace, real peace. Was God in that moment? Or had He been pushed to the margins? Putting God first isn't a ritual, it's a rhythm. It's what Jesus modeled every day, rising early to pray, withdrawing from the noise, saying no to good things so He could say yes to the best thing His Father's will. And here's something we miss putting. God first doesn't mean ignoring everything else. It means ordering everything through Him. When God is first, your marriage changes not because you love your spouse more, but because you love them through Him. When God is first, your work changes not because you stop grinding, but because your motive is no longer fear or fame, but faithfulness. When God is first, even your pain changes because suffering no longer feels empty. It becomes a place where God meets you. You stop asking why and start asking, what are you teaching me here, Lord? And there was a time in my life when I was juggling everything: ministry, relationships, ambition, trying to be impressive to everyone, but intimate with no one. On the outside, I looked blessed. On the inside, I was burning out, and God let me fall, not to destroy me, but to rebuild me. And when I finally hit the floor, when I stopped pretending and started praying, I realized something. Peace is not found in perfect plans. It's found in surrendered priorities. What if the peace you're craving is hiding on the other side of surrender? That season changed everything. I started waking up earlier, not to grind, but to sit in silence with God. I stopped asking Him to bless my agenda and started asking what His agenda was. And little by little, the fog began to clear. Things I chased lost their shine. Things I ignored gained eternal weight. And people around me started asking, what changed? It wasn't magic. It wasn't a productivity hack. It was this: I put God back on the throne. Now I need to say this, because someone watching right now is thinking, but I've tried, I pray, I read, and still I feel far. God is not asking for your perfection. He's asking for your presence. He doesn't want a performance. He wants your heart. Raw, honest, even angry if that's where you are. Bring it. He's big enough to handle your doubts. He's patient enough to sit with your silence. And he's loving enough to carry your shame so you don't have to anymore. Putting God first doesn't make life easier. It makes life clearer. You begin to see what matters, what's worth fighting for, what's worth letting go. And more than that, you start to change. Your cravings change. Your pace slows down. You speak with more grace. You listen longer. You stop comparing, competing, consuming, and you start abiding. That's the goal. Not just believing in God, but abiding in Him. Jesus said, "Abide in me, and you will bear much fruit. But apart from Him, you can do nothing." So here's your moment. Before you scroll on pause, ask yourself, who's first in my life, really? And if it's not God, are you willing to change that, not tomorrow, today? Start with a prayer. Start with one chapter. Start with a playlist of worship. Start by turning off the noise and sitting in His presence. You don't have to do it all. You just have to begin. And if this message is speaking to you even just a little, don't ignore it. That's God calling you home. Before we end this part, I want to invite you to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment below. What's one thing you can do this week to put God first? Or what Bible topic should I talk about next? You're not just a viewer. You're part of this journey, and we're only getting started. Putting God first is not a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline. Every morning you get to choose. Will I build my life around Him today, or will I squeeze Him into the margins? The truth is, God doesn't want your leftovers. He's not looking for your scraps of time, your leftover energy, or your conditional faith. He wants the first, the best, not because He's selfish, but because He's worthy. And because He knows that when He's first, everything else begins to fall into its rightful place. Look at the Israelites in the wilderness. God gave them manna, bread from heaven, but it came with a condition. Gather it fresh every morning. Why? Because God was teaching them something deeper. Dependence, priority, trust. He was saying, I will provide, but you have to seek me first. What if your spiritual hunger isn't because God is distant, but because you're gathering your manna too late after the world has already drained your spirit? We have to start our days with Him, not as a box to check, but as a lifeline to hold. But let's be honest, life is loud. Emails, texts, kids, meetings, traffic bills, it doesn't stop. And in the chaos, it's easy to let God slip from first to second, or third, or 10th. And here's what happens when we do. We start reacting instead of responding. We start worrying instead of trusting. We start striving instead of abiding. But when we begin with God, even just a few intentional minutes, the whole day shifts. Your thoughts are clearer. Your responses are slower. Your spirit is grounded. And here's something people rarely talk about. Putting God first doesn't mean putting everything else last. It means seeing everything else through Him. Your career, it's not separate from your faith, it's an expression of it. Your parenting, not just a duty, but a discipleship opportunity. Your marriage, not just a partnership, but a picture of Christ and the church. When you truly put God first, you stop compartmentalizing your life. It becomes integrated, whole, anchored. Let's talk about something most people overlook, the power of margin. In the Old Testament, God didn't just command tithing money. He commanded tithing time through Sabbath. One full day every week set apart to rest, to remember, to reconnect. Why? Because God knew our hearts would wander. He knew we'd drift into productivity idolatry. He knew we'd forget who sustains us. So He gave us a weekly rhythm of putting Him first again. When's the last time you truly rested? Not as laziness, but as worship. When's the last time you slowed down long enough to hear the whisper of God instead of the noise of culture? Putting God first requires creating space. Space in your schedule, in your thoughts, in your home, in your conversations. If your calendar is too full for God, your life is too full, period. And here's a truth that stings: we make time for what matters most. So let's stop saying, "I don't have time." The real statement is, "It's not my priority." But you can change that today. Start by blocking time on your calendar, literally just like a meeting with your boss. Because guess what? God is more important than your boss. Create a sacred window in your morning. Guard it fiercely. Don't let your phone steal it. Don't let distraction dilute it. Even 10 minutes of undivided attention can reroute your whole day. And don't stop there. Let God interrupt your day too. Talk to Him while driving. Turn off the radio and just sit in silence. Ask Him for guidance before a meeting. Thank Him between tasks. Let your day be peppered with prayer, seasoned with scripture, soaked in surrender. Because God doesn't just want your mornings, He wants your mindset. Let's shift gears now, because someone is asking, what happens when I put God first, but everything still falls apart? It's a fair question. And here's the answer. So God being first doesn't mean your life will be painless. It means your pain won't be pointless. It means that even in the trial, the storm, the waiting, He is with you. He is shaping you. He is holding you together. Daniel put God first and ended up in a lion's den. Joseph put God first and was thrown into a pit, then a prison. Jesus put His Father first and was nailed to a cross. So don't equate ease with obedience. Sometimes putting God first will cost you comfort, popularity, opportunities, even relationships. But what you gain in return, peace, clarity, purpose, presence, is worth infinitely more. And let me tell you something personal. Some of the most powerful moments in my walk with God weren't on mountaintops. They were in the valleys, in heartbreak, in loss, in confusion. But because I had learned to put Him first, I wasn't destroyed. I was deepened. I didn't run from Him, I ran to Him. And He met me there, every time. Maybe that's where you are, right now, in the middle of a mess. And you're wondering, how do I put God first when I can barely hold it together? You don't need to climb your way up. You just need to look up, whisper His name, hand Him the pieces, invite Him in. He doesn't need your performance. He needs your permission. Let Him lead again. Let Him carry what's crushing you. Putting God first doesn't mean you carry more. It means you carry less, because He carries you. And as you begin to reorder your life around Him, you'll notice something powerful. Your anxiety starts to shrink. Your joy starts to grow. Your cravings begin to shift. And the things you once chased no longer define you, because you've found what truly matters. Before we close this part, I want to speak to your future. Imagine your life 5 years from now, not more successful but more surrendered, not busier but more balanced, not louder but more peaceful, not driven by pressure but led by presence. That's possible. That's the fruit of putting God first. But it starts now, so here's your challenge this week. Take one bold step to rearrange your priorities. Cancel a distraction, create a sacred morning, confess what's been first place in your heart, and give that place back to God. And let me know in the comments, what step are you taking? What area do you want to surrender? If this is speaking to you, don't just watch, respond. Like the video, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it. You're not alone in this journey. We're walking it together. And the best is yet to come. Maybe by now you're realizing this truth, putting God first, isn't just about a new habit. It's about becoming a new person. It's not about having perfect mornings. It's about having a reoriented heart. It's not about fixing everything overnight. It's about walking in a new direction, one step, one surrender, one breath at a time. Because when you put God first, you don't just change your schedule. You change your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's always behind, always struggling, always trying to prove something. And you start seeing yourself as someone chosen, seen, loved, and led by the King of Kings. And that changes how you live. Putting God first changes your decisions. You begin to ask different questions. Not what do I want, but what honors God. Not what's fastest, but what's faithful. It changes your relationships. You stop using people to fill a void only God can satisfy. You start loving them not for what they give, but for who they are. It changes your parenting, your leadership, your finances, your boundaries, your mindset, and it changes the way you face struggle. Because storms will come, but when God is first, the storm doesn't shake your foundation, it reveals it. Think of Jesus' words in Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. That's not a suggestion, it's a blueprint. When God is first, you stop chasing crumbs. You start feasting on what truly satisfies. And here's the miracle. The more you seek him, the more everything else starts to shift into place. It won't be perfect. There will be days when you fall, days when you forget, days when you feel dry or distant or discouraged. But even then, especially then, don't stop showing up. Because putting God first is not about getting it right every time. It's about returning every time, coming back, recentering, lifting your eyes. Let's talk now about something most people avoid: idols. Because the greatest threat to putting God first is putting something else in his place. It could be a career, a relationship, your comfort, your reputation, your phone, even ministry. Anything, even a good thing, can become an idol if it takes God's seat in your heart. And here's the thing about idols: they promise peace, but deliver pressure. They offer comfort, but bring chaos. They attract your thirst, in fact your attention, but drain your soul. How do you know if something has become an idol? Simple: when it owns your emotions. When your joy rises and falls with it. When losing it feels like losing yourself. God isn't threatened by your job or your dreams. He just refuses to share the throne. He loves you too much to let you be ruled by something that cannot save you. So maybe this is your moment, not to just put God first on paper, but to tear down the idols in your heart. To finally say, God, you're not a category. You're not a checkbox. You're my source, my center, my everything. And when you do that, the shift is undeniable. Suddenly worship becomes more than a song. It becomes a lifestyle. Reading scripture becomes more than a duty. It becomes a doorway. Prayer becomes more than requests. It becomes relationship. And you start to see the fingerprints of God in places you never noticed before, in conversations, in interruptions, in silence, in struggle. Your life becomes holy ground. Let me speak something over you right now. You don't have to strive your way to peace. You don't have to achieve your way to value. You don't have to perform your way into God's love. You just have to come home. God isn't waiting for the cleaned-up version of you. He's waiting for the real you, right now, as you are. And when you put him first, you realize you never needed the world's approval. You were already fully known, fully loved, and fully called. That's the gift. Now I want to leave you with a picture. Imagine your life as a house. Most people invite God into one room, maybe the living room on Sundays, maybe the kitchen table at dinner. But the rest locked doors, off limits. But when you truly put God first, you don't just give him a room, you give him the deed. You say, God, this house is yours. Every room, every corner, every closet, every wound, every memory, every dream. And he doesn't just enter, he renovates. He tears down what was broken. He rebuilds what was missing. He fills what was empty. He cleans what was dirty. He warms what was cold. He turns your life into a temple, and the world starts to see it. Not because you're louder, but because you're different. You carry peace in pressure. You carry joy in sorrow. You carry light in darkness. And people begin to ask, what is it about you? And you smile, not because you're perfect, but because you're free. And you tell them, I didn't find peace by doing more. I found it by surrendering more. I stopped putting everything else first. I put God first, and everything else started to fall into place. Friend, that can be your story too. Not next year, not when you figure everything out. But no, start where you are, with what you have, as you are. Let today be the line in the sand. let today be the turning point. And if you've made that decision, or if you're ready to leave a comment below, let's walk this out together. If this video touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, subscribe. Be part of this community of people who are learning to put God first. Not perfectly, but honestly. And let me know, what do you want us to talk about next? What part of your faith journey needs clarity, encouragement, or truth? Because this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Let's keep seeking. Let's keep surrendering. Let's keep growing. God first, always.